Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Krishnan, the president of the IIT Madras Alumni Association Bangalore chapter. On behalf of IITMAA, I extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Anant Agarwal to today's session. We really look forward to hearing from a superb teacher and researcher, accomplished technologist, and a visionary in education. Welcome, Dr. Agarwal, and over to you.
Thank you. I just want to confirm that you all can see my screen. Are you able to, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see the screen.
So the screen should say future of learning. That look okay?
Yes.
Okay, so let me get started. Good morning to folks in the US, and I guess it's good evening to folks in India, and it's somewhere in between for everybody else. So I'm delighted to join you all. I graduated from IIT Madras in 1982, and I'm delighted to get together with you to brainstorm about the future of learning. You see the picture here. It shows a set of modular Lego blocks. And the theme of this presentation will be that by applying digital technology to education, I believe we can create a future where education can not only be fun and accessible to everybody in the world, but will enable new kinds of flexibilities that will enable people to create new kinds of educational experiences, much like how they can use Legos to build castles. So let me start with taking you, dreaming a little bit here, taking you forward to 2030. So in about 12 years, 11 years from now, we get to 2030. And a question I want you to think about is, what fraction of today's jobs do you think are going to look the same or going to be around in 2030? Now, various studies have shown that by 2030, half of today's jobs will either be gone or will completely be transformed into new jobs. This means that 1 in 2 people will have to completely change what they're doing. Now, just imagine this. If you are 30, 35, 40, or my age or whatever, if 1 in 2 are out of a job or need to be upskilled or reskilled, it looks like we have a planet scale challenge on our hands in terms of upskilling the whole population. And today's education system that we have simply doesn't work to address this challenge. Every field known to mankind has been completely transformed by digital. Things like the whole transportation industry has been transformed by Lyft and Uber. The whole hotel industry has been transformed by Airbnb and TripAdvisor and others. And of course, entertainment has been completely transformed by the likes of YouTube and Netflix. However, our education system is still much like the same as we grew up with. Education in IIT Madras really is unchanged as when we were there 35, 36 years ago. More surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, education really hasn't changed a whole lot in several hundred years. But every field has changed. So now go back to what I said earlier. We have to upskill half a planet. Our education system can only take in a few hundred people into every IIT and maybe a few hundred or a few thousand people into various universities. So how on earth are we going to upskill a planet? Someone's working, you're 35, you have a job, you have kids. The chances that you're going to be able to go back to campus to get upskilled is 0. We have to somehow rethink education to be able to support people like that, where we really have to address this existential challenge to education and existential challenge to the future of jobs in on our planet. So in this talk, I'm going to brainstorm a little bit with you as to what edX is and talk a little bit about how I see the future of learning evolving, given these challenges to the needs of the future of work and also education. edX is a nonprofit and founded by Harvard and MIT. Our basic mission is to apply digital technology to education and bring it into the 21st century. Simply put, how do we transform education at universities and elsewhere, much like other industries have been completely transformed, and really help our universities to get into this new 21st century style of education. And in doing so, we have two goals. One is to expand access to education, and second is to improve education quality. And we believe that it is possible to do both. Today, anybody in the world can very easily search for anything without having to spend thousands of dollars or lakhs of rupees on an encyclopedia set. Searching is free. Similarly, the president of the World Bank recently said that by 2023, everybody in the world will have an internet connection. And so if we can provide access to connections and bandwidths to everybody in the world, can't we do the same for education? And that's part of our motto. Briefly, before I go into the future of education, give you a quick overview of edX. edX today is an online learning platform. We partner with some of the top universities in the world, like MIT and Harvard and Oxford. From India with the IIM Bangalore, IIT Bombay, BITS Pilani, and others from about 140 global partners. And we offer courses on our platform to learners from all over the world. We have 20 million global learners from 196 countries, which is all the countries in the world, and over 10% hail from India. And so that is 2 million learners from India who are learning on edX.org. And people can come and very easily start learning for free. And technology can really enable an access like that, where you pull out your mobile device, download the edX app, or just go to your laptop, go to edx.org, and you can start learning for free. And so with education technology, it's much like Google search. You just pull up the site and you can start searching. And so digital technology enables massive scale and massive reach. Going back to the challenge I brought up earlier of reskilling the whole planet, how do we solve it? So to do so, imagine people who are looking for new skills. It's going to be very difficult for them to come back to a university. Universities are tuned for students like, when we went to IIT, we were 17 or 18 years old, and we spent 4 or 5 years. I think my own batch spent 5 years on campus. Today, they spend 4 years on campus. But for this reskilling challenge that we face for the world, they can't go onto campus. And so we need new ways of thinking about things. One is the people need modular content. They need smaller pieces of learning so that they don't have to necessarily spend 2 years doing the same thing, like getting a master's degree or a new bachelor's degree. They need new credentials. How do they showcase their skills? Today, once you have a bachelor's degree, it doesn't make sense to go and get another bachelor's degree. And because a master's is 2 years, it may not even make sense to get a master's degree. In the US, master's degrees are expensive. They cost $40,000, $50,000 in some of the key areas like data science and computer science, and business degrees are $100,000 in the US. So what do you do? So here is one example of an innovation that edX partners and edX have created. It's called the MicroMasters program. This is just one example of an innovation we can do using digital technology and online learning in education. So you'll see how radical this is and what digital technology can enable. So MicroMasters, as the name implies, is about 25% of a master's degree. Okay, so if a master's degree takes 1 year, the MicroMasters might be 25% of it. It's career focused, it's endorsed by companies, it's flexible, it's fully online. And the beauty of this is it's open admissions. Now, when you come to campus, I remember when we went to IIT, the JEE would admit roughly 1 out of 100 people that apply. And the reason was, that campus can only hold a certain number of students. And so what do you do? You have to find a admissions process and you admit a few people. Now online, there is no limit to how many people we can educate. And so you can do crazy things like, imagine open admissions. So the MicroMasters on edX are open admissions. Anybody is welcome. And if you have a will to learn, you can come and learn. It is free to learn. You can start learning for free. But if you want the credential, the MicroMasters, and if you want the graded exams and assignments that relate to the credential, you pay about $1,000. That's about 70,000 rupees for a MicroMasters. And so we have MicroMasters. We have about 50 MicroMasters on our platform today. For example, what you see here is a MicroMasters in analytics from a top 10 ranked school, Georgia Tech. And it's endorsed by companies like many of our MicroMasters are endorsed by companies like Google and GE and Microsoft and Bloomberg and others. One of the beauties of the MicroMasters is that it gives you a pathway to credit. So let's say we have a MicroMasters from the Indian Institute of Management in the fundamentals of business. Now think of it like a micro MBA. So we have that on edX from IIM Bangalore. For about $1,000, you can earn that credential. In addition, if you get the credential and you get admission into the university, it gives you a pathway to credit and you don't have to do those courses again. So typically 25 to 30% of the credit is waived and you can transfer this credit from the MicroMasters into that university. So this is a very radical kind of credential. And frankly, without digital technology, there's no way that we could have done something like this. You can't do open admissions. You cannot do something that is, free learning, where the credential is only about $1,000. There's just no way that you're going to be able to do this. So to give you some examples of learners, at the end of the day, we're doing this for learners, and here are some real learners who have benefited from edX, some of the 20 million students on edX. And what is remarkable of the MicroMasters programs is that we did a survey of the learners that earned certificates in MicroMasters, and 91% of them are reporting positive career outcomes, either a pay raise, a new job, or a promotion within the company. And so within 6 months, 91% are reporting positive outcomes by doing the MicroMasters. So we're seeing results also coming back from the success of these programs. At the end of the day, you also want to look at individual stories. So on the left-hand side, you see one of my favorite students, Bhargav. He completed an introduction to computer science and programming using Python. He is at, believe it or not, he's at my alma mater, IIT Madras. And he completed this whole program. And what is actually amazing is that he is legally blind. And so online, our platform, the edX platform, is ADA compliant, and people can learn. And we support many kinds of screen readers and other technologies to support accessibility in the sense of ADA accessibility. On the right-hand side is another student, Amol Bhave. He hails from Jabalpur. He took some edX courses, 7 years ago. He applied to MIT, and based on his success in the edX courses, which played a big part in his getting admission at MIT, he graduated 4 years later, and today he has a computer science degree and he works at Facebook. And he credits his first course on edX with a lot of his pathway. Here are some other examples. Harleen was from India, and she completed a professional certificate in data science from Microsoft. And today she moved to Microsoft in Redmond in Washington in the US. We have a front-end web developer program from the World Wide Web Consortium, and Larissa benefited from that. There are many, I've just focused on computer science and data science here, but we have 2,400 courses from 140 institutional partners in topics like computer science, data science, business, humanities. We even have a course in Hindi from Australia National University. It's called Engaging India. And so many courses in humanities, in history, and in languages, learning English. We even have courses that help you with the TOEFL and IELTS preparation, and the courses are available on edX for free. To reskill the planet, to reskill India, we've also teamed up with companies. So as one example, we've launched edX for Business, where we work directly with corporations all over the world. We have 300 corporate partners already, and we work with a number of companies in India. Tech Mahindra is one example. They teamed up with edX to reskill their 117,000 employees. And they're using many of our MicroMasters in areas like IoT, cybersecurity, machine learning, AI, big data to upskill their employees. They're also offering anybody in India that completes one of these 10 MicroMasters an automatic interview if they complete the MicroMasters. So companies are also looking for ways to engage and reskill their populations, and edX for Business is one of our thrusts to work with employers to help them upskill their team members. The edX platform, very quickly to give you a sense of how this works, uses a online pedagogy called active learning. Instead of passive learning where you sit and listen to a lecture, what active learning does is that it interleaves videos and exercises so that learners learn something for 5 or 10 minutes, and then they have to engage themselves. And so this kind of learning is called active learning. And edX courses are an interleaving of content and activity. It's a very, research has shown that this is a very fruitful way of learning. And here's some data. And this is some results from MIT that did a study of learners, corporate learners, where the corporate learners were just given videos to learn in the usual way. And then they were given an active learning model, which is also called interpolated testing, where they showed learners videos and gave them tests in the middle of it, a la the edX active learning platform. And the results are pretty amazing. As you can see, the active learning approach gave much better learning outcomes than just giving people content. And what was particularly fun was they looked at the EEG patterns. I showed some EEG patterns on the screen below. They showed EEG patterns they examined the EEG patterns of learners watching video versus active learning. And I'm told, I'm not an EEG expert, I'm told that if you see yellows and reds, that means your mind is in the sleep state. But a lot of blues implies engagement. And as you can see, the interpolated testing simply has a lot more engagement. And what this is saying is that our human brains it's biology, our human brains are wired in a way that active learning simply suits us in terms of being able to learn better. So with that, that was sort of a quick overview of what edX is and how digital learning can not only increase access and solve some of the challenges we faced, like giving everybody open access and open admissions, but also with active learning, increasing the quality of education. And there's many other reasons why digital technology can improve the quality of education, both on campus and worldwide. So I'm hoping that I've given you some sense as to how we can increase access and improve quality at the same time. In the next few minutes, let me dream a little bit with you about what I see as the future of learning when we apply digital technology to education. I see three important trends. One, and this was the thesis of this talk, was modular education. Can we create an education system that can build education like Legos? Second is omnichannel learning, and third is lifelong education. Let me look at each of these in turn. So modularity means that it's not one size fits all. So today you go do a master's degree, you spend 2 years doing a master's. You do an undergraduate degree, you spend 4 years doing an undergraduate degree. And let's say I'm doing a master's and I take 4 courses. Let's say I do a piece of a master's and then I quit and I finish and I leave. Think about what you call such people. Okay, if one of our children goes and does a master's, and after one semester they come back home and say, "Oh, I'm not doing it anymore." What do we call them? I want you to think about this for a few seconds. Yep, that's right. We call them dropouts. We call them failures. Why do we do that? They've learned something. And so with digital technology, what we can do is create a modular education system where rather than have one size fits all, hey, this is a 2-year master's or 1-year master's, maybe we can give people smaller chunks of learning so that they can not only customize their learning, but they can also get successes along the way. And so, and just as an example with modular learning, on edX, you can have individual courses. You can have micromasters, which are pieces of masters. And now we also offer full master's degrees. And what modularity allows is stacking. What is stacking? Stacking means that you can take a single course on edX. So let's say, for example, you want to learn about artificial intelligence. Well, you can take the first course on artificial intelligence from Columbia University and take that course. You can start learning for free. For a few $100s, you can get a certificate. Then you say, oh, this is pretty good. Then you can sign up for the MicroMasters in AI from Columbia. That's about 25% of a master's degree. And then you can stop right there and that's it. Maybe get an improvement in your career. Alternatively, you can say, look, I want to stack it up to get a full master's degree. And so you can complete a full master's degree at Columbia or other places if you stack the MicroMasters and convert the credit. So this is what I mean by modularity, and one of its benefits is stacking. One of the examples is we've launched a stacked master's degree in analytics with Georgia Tech, where you can earn the MicroMasters in analytics for $1,500, and you can get a full master's degree in analytics for $10,000 from Georgia Tech on edX. Modularity allows sharing among top-ranked programs. So here's another example. And these are all radical things that were unheard of before. So MIT offers a MicroMasters on edX in global supply chain management. So what we did was Arizona State University offered a master's degree in supply chain management on edX. And what they said is that, look, why do we have to recreate what MIT has done? And so you can take the MIT MicroMasters and you can fold that into the ASU supply chain management. And so 40% of this degree will come from the MIT program. And then if you want to, you can continue and complete the online program from ASU on edX. And what is amazing here, what is really amazing is that we can get top-ranked programs to collaborate. MIT is the #2 ranked program in the world in supply chain, and ASU is a #3 ranked program. And so we're not only able to innovate with modular learning in this way, but also get top-ranked universities like ASU and MIT and others to collaborate on such radical and innovative new concepts. Here's another crazy idea. How about another level of sharing of modular content? So here's what this university in Pakistan is doing. It's called the IT University. So on edX, we have a data science MicroMasters from UC San Diego. Okay, it's a data science MicroMasters, and you can do it on edX, learn for free, or for $1,000 or so, you can get a MicroMaster from UCSD in data science. Now, what the IT University in Pakistan did was they wanted to launch a master's in data science. And so what they did was they have their campus students take about 6 courses from campus faculty in computer science. And then they've embedded the online data science program on edX from UCSD into their campus, where the students take these courses completely online on edX. And IT University gives them a data science degree. So isn't that cool? We're a university, and we're doing this with not at the master's degree level, but at individual courses with several Indian universities as well, where what they're doing is that they're having their campus students take courses on edX, and they are giving credit for them. And really, the most radical of them that I've seen is from the IT University in Pakistan, where there are 40% of these courses, I think it's either 25 or 40% of the courses are coming from edX and data science, and they are giving the degree, and their students are taking these online courses completely online. So imagine the future of universities, where universities can begin sharing and adopting content from each other. And I know that a lot of universities in India, and I see a future where maybe some of the students in Indian universities can get a shot at taking some amazing content from places around the world, in addition to content that they're getting from their own faculty at the campus. So that's modular education. So next topic I want to talk about is omnichannel. So many of you must have heard about a year ago the big announcement from Amazon acquiring Whole Foods. Now, Amazon is an online juggernaut, and Whole Foods in the US is a store where you go to buy very fresh groceries, tomatoes and mangoes and things like that. Amazon acquired Whole Foods, and this kind of foretold a new generation of retail, which was going to be omni-channel, where people would be shopping both online and in person. I believe education will go the same way. We will have many ways in which universities will be offering both online content and in-person content in an omni-channel model. And frankly, I see the future of university as the omni-channel university. And frankly, as an educator myself, I've been a professor at MIT for 31 years. And as I look into the future here, I'm convinced that if universities don't go omni-channel in the next 5 to 10 years, I believe that their future is going to be very bleak. They have to go omni-channel. It's going to be the same, just like in retail. So here are some examples. When students are on campus, they can do omni-channel learning. So at Georgia Tech, for example, the campus classes in computer science were exploding. There's no room for the students. And so they allow their students to either take their online course on edX in computer science fully online, or take the campus course. And what's amazing is that they have tens of thousands of students enrolled from around the world. At the same time, they have about 50 to 100 students enrolled from their campus. And I got this data from Dean, my friend, Dean Sweet, who's the Dean of Computer Science at Georgia Tech. He tells us that 82% of their learners are rating it better than even their campus course. And today, 60% of the students are taking this campus course. We've seen similar experiments from MIT and other universities as well.
Okay, and
That's
call back chesta.
I think one of you may need to have your
5
computer
minutes.
on.
నేను సైకిల్ మీద ఉన్నా రూమ్ రీచ్ అయిపోతున్నా.
So the third thing is one was modular education, second was omni-channel, and the third trend is lifelong education, where as we were growing up, we went to IIT at 17 or 18 for 4 or 5 years, and some of us did a master's right then. But then the model in those days was, you kind of learn in the beginning of your career, and then you kind of work throughout life. I believe those days are gone. I believe that people need to become lifelong learners. As technologies keep evolving and we need to learn newer and newer things, we need to be learning throughout life. And I believe that in the future, lifelong learning is going to be the modus operandi, as opposed to one-time learning in the beginning of life. And in order to do that, we need new credentials. We need new modular credentials, as every 5 or 10 years, people will be retooling themselves. And master's and bachelor's degrees are too big. They need modular credentials like the MicroMasters and similar programs. We need corporates to buy into this, where corporates need to use their learning programs to reskill their employees. And of course, for lifelong learning, I don't see how people are going to learn lifelong while they're in jobs or looking for jobs if it is only in person. I believe that the only way, the only enabler for lifelong learning is going to be digital education or online education. If you're 35 or 40, you have a couple of kids, and you're in a town away from your university, how on earth are you going to go back to university for 2 years for a master's? I believe you need modular education, And I believe you need lifelong learning, and I believe you need online learning in order to be able to upskill using some modular credential. In order to facilitate lifelong learning, MOOC providers like edX are launching the programs in a variety of topics that industry is telling us that are critical for the future. Companies like Walmart and Bloomberg and Rethink Robotics and consulting companies like Accenture and PwC are telling us that topics like sustainable energy, cybersecurity, IoT, these are all critical topics. And we have MicroMasters programs or professional certificate programs, modular credentials in all of these. What we're also hearing from industry is that soft skills are going to become very important. Not just hard skills and tech skills, but also soft skills like writing, communications, teamwork, critical thinking. And you can teach those as well. And Rochester Institute of Technology has a modular program in soft skills on our platform. And I believe that in the future, soft skills are going to be as critical as what people call the hard skills or the tech skills. In order to promote lifelong learning, and work with companies, we've launched edX for Business to help companies reskill their employees using top quality content from places like MIT and IIM Bangalore and Oxford and others. And companies can directly work with us to retool their and engage their employees. And edX for Business does that. I was talking about soft skills. We did a survey, and we found that I did a Twitter survey a few months ago, and I asked on Twitter, what soft skills do you consider to be the most helpful at work? And what was amazing was, of the soft skills like writing, speaking, critical thinking, 50% of the responders on Twitter indicated teamwork and collaboration as the top soft skill. And you see an example of a soft skill program from Rochester Institute of Technology. You can teach soft skills. And then finally, for lifelong learning, many people will want to do a MicroMasters and then decide, hey, look, I want to do a full master's degree. And so affordable master's degree, completely online. And so, today you can go and do a number of online degrees. So for example, on edX, we have degrees for many degrees for $10,000 in analytics and computer science from UT Austin, for example. In data science for $15,000 from UCSD, or cybersecurity from Georgia Tech for $10,000, accounting, business, leadership, and a number of other topics. And the idea of these online degrees, very low cost compared to campus programs, is to give people the flexibility if they want to stack their modules into full degrees. So with that, let me stop here and just summarize very quickly. I see three important trends in education: modular education, omnichannel education, and lifelong learning. And I believe that digital technology will transform education completely. And a university is going ahead, will be supporting these kinds of learnings. At the same time, people around the world will become lifelong learners, and they will be learning and taking these modular programs, both in person and online, in an omni-channel way, in a lifelong manner. So with that, let me go back to my screen here, and I would be happy to take questions. I know you're typing in questions, and so let me go ahead and bring them up. So please go ahead and type in your questions. I'm going to stop sharing the screen here, so you should be able to see me and type in your questions, and I'm happy to answer your questions as we go. So we have the first question, and which is that in my talk I focused very heavily on reskilling and lifelong learning. I should have also mentioned Many of us have children. I have two children, Akash and Anisha, myself. And the question probably relates to our children, which is, do we have courses on edX that supports learning for middle school and high school students? And the answer is yes. It turns out that about 10% of our students on edX about 2 million of them are from middle school and high school. We have over 100 courses that are being taken by middle schoolers and high schoolers. If you know what AP is, we have about 25 high school AP level programs also available for free on the edX platform. We have a lot of other courses like very, very introductory programming in Scratch and other languages, which frankly can be taken by children who are 7 or 8 years old. And believe it or not, on edX, we have learners ranging in age from 4.5 to 97. And so Scratch programming might be just an amazing course to get even young children, 8 or 9 years old, into getting into programming. We have basic math, trigonometry, geometry, algebra for 7th graders. And then for high schoolers, we have courses in a number of topics in languages, history, math, calculus, pre-calculus, and others as well. So a couple of questions coming in. Let me read them. So one question is, what is a view on the future of collaboration in terms of industry, academia kinds of collaboration? I think it's a great question. I think digital technologies will enable not just new forms of learning that were unheard of before, but they will also enable new kinds of collaboration. I'll give you an edX example, and then I'll dream a bit more into the future. So on edX, we have a feature which some courses on our platform use called Teams, where students around the world can form teams of 2, 4, 5, 10 people and do team projects together and collaborate online. And just imagine, you can have a student from India, a student from New Zealand, one from Pakistan, one from US, one from Latin America, collaborating on a project. You can imagine the kind of world we will create where kids are growing up collaborating with each other from all over the world. I see many other kinds of collaboration where industry academia will collaborate, where we have many industry created courses on edX, and academia will adopt these courses from industry, allowing their students on campus to take these industry courses so that when they apply for a job, they are job ready. So we have hundreds of courses on edX from companies like Microsoft and IBM and Linux and others in topics like how to create a chatbot from IBM, or absolutely basic introductory data science from Microsoft, or deep learning from IBM, or blockchain technology from Linux. And so many of these courses are often not available in all universities, and we'll see industry-university collaboration in this manner. We'll also see academia collaboration. I talked about one example where you saw the IT University in Pakistan, excuse me, taking a course from another university. I see that there'll be a lot of sharing of content and credit between universities going ahead as well. The next question is, are there good examples of soft skills being developed in a digital way? What are challenges and how institutions and content creators are addressing this set of learning? So soft skills are things like critical thinking, storytelling, teamwork, collaboration, writing, persuasive speaking, and so on. And I encourage you to go to edx.org and check out the soft skills. Just type soft skills in the search bar, and it will take you to, or just go to Google and type in soft skills and edX, and it'll take you to the soft skills program. And you can see what kind of courses there are and what these soft skills are. The question implies often people think that you can't teach soft skills online, and people will always challenge us saying, look, you cannot teach soft skills online. Soft skills have to be taught in person. I mean, of course, you can teach soft skills in person, and in person is good, but you can also teach them online. And with technology today, you can teach soft skills online. Just as one example, so let's say, for example, persuasive writing. How do you grade writing? So we have many ways of grading writing. One is, for people that are paying, one can imagine that a teaching assistant can grade them, but that is expensive. We also use peer evaluation, where people grade each other's work on the platform. And so this way, it's like crowdsourcing. You're enabling people to grade each other, and they learn while they, and they can also learn while they are grading. The other approaches, we also have a prototype technology where we use AI technology, machine learning, to grade essays, where you grade the first 100 essays manually using a human against a rubric, and then you train a machine learning model, which then can grade a lot of other essays, millions of essays, very in the blink of an eye, and you can use machine learning technologies. So that's one way of grading, a soft skill like persuasive writing. You can grade things like a conversation. What you can do is, you can form a team, and 2 or 3 people can record a conversation, and the teams can post the conversations on SoundCloud, and then post a link on the peer grading platform, and then you can listen to sounds and grade each other. And so there are many ways of doing that. So I believe that soft skills can very eminently be taught online. Another question is, courses in the US and frankly around the world, often particularly tech courses, go hand in hand with lab experiments. And your question is, are there any courses on edX which need lab experiments, and how do you solve that need? It's a great question. And turns out that for many lab subjects, you can do online labs. I'll talk about my own course. I have a course on 3 courses on edX. The first course is on circuits and electronics. And as you might imagine, circuits and electronics has a lab. So how do we solve that problem? Well, you use digital technology. It's a virtual lab. It's simulation based. So you can check out the course on edX, and you can go to the lab and you can do lab experiments. We have a virtual breadboard. You have components. You can drag and drop the components, and you can build circuits. Using simulation, we have oscilloscopes, and we have spectrum analyzers. You can do all of these things virtually. We even have a lab where people can input music and listen to music on your computer. And in many ways, these labs can be even more fun than physical labs, because you can do this all the time, as opposed to having to go to a physical lab where there might not be enough equipment. And this scales. The circuits course had 155,000 students. Excuse me. 155,000 students take the first offering of the course. And the lab scales. 100,000 people could be doing the lab. And particularly for countries like India and others, where small universities may not have the resources to buy real equipment, virtual labs can be very fruitful. We have many other courses with labs. We have physics labs. So Boston University has a AP physics course on edX. You can go check that out. In that, the way they do labs is that they use video. They show experiments using video, and students, they use simulation, and students have to go measure things on the screen, and then they have to go and do the calculations themselves. We have an embedded systems course from UT Austin, and this is by Professor Valvano and Yarabali. And what they do is that they've collaborated with TI, and TI built a small lab kit. And students buy the lab kit from all over the world from TI, and then they do the experiments themselves. And you won't believe this, but already tens of thousands of students from around the world have purchased this very low-cost lab kit. If I remember correctly, it's about $20 or something. And so we have bio labs. If you go to MIT's Eric Lander's biology course on edX, they have biology, various kinds of biology experiments. And so there's many ways of doing the labs. We have chemistry labs. What I don't know, by the way, is how do you recreate smell? that is a open question at this time, and maybe one of you will solve that problem as well. Another question that says, is it not hard to teach certain soft skills online or omnichannel, where MBA programs rely on shared discussion in the classroom for the case study method? So it turns out that we're all so used to the campus learning. And by the way, I want to be clear, campus learning is going to be around forever. My point is that online learning will be used to augment and in-person learning and create a mix. Now, the case method. It turns out that you can have classroom discussion and the case method fully online. edX supports the case method, where what you do is you show everybody a case. Students read the case online, and active learning can then be used. Students then submit their maybe suggestions for a case in writing. In a class, a professor can ask questions of a student. Similarly, online, a professor can ask a question, and a timer can go on. And on edX, a timer goes on, and the student has to answer the question with the timer. Now, remember, in class, if you have a class of, say, 300 students, only one person is able to answer the question. And I'm sure many of you remember, some of your students in the first row that tried to answer every question, and everybody did not get a chance. But online, remember, the professor asks a question, and every student gets a timer, and every student gets to independently answer the question, which is actually better than in person. That's one part of the case method, but the professor points to students and asks them questions. And then second thing is, when students submit their answers, students can grade each other's work and provide feedback, and the feedback goes back to the students, and they can look at the feedback, and they can have a discussion, and they'll be typing in the discussion and doing it, and then they can revise their essay, resubmit it. So you get something that is very close to the case method, but that in some ways can be better than in person, because everybody gets to answer questions. And in some cases it may not be as good, because then it takes more time to type in the answers and listen to what other people are saying on a discussion forum. But you can get pretty darn close. Another question is there any effort to make courses multilingual rather than English-centric? Certainly, most of our courses are heavily English. However, we actually launched a Spanish platform, and today we have about 150 courses completely in Spanish. We have courses in Spanish, we have courses in Chinese, we have courses in Russian, French. The list goes on and on. So we have courses in many languages. We have a course in Hindi from Australia National University on edX, and so in many languages. Also, many courses also have a transcript in different languages. So in my own circuits course, there's an English transcript, and there's also a Chinese transcript. And so again, it's not as much content as we like, but there is some multi-language content. Next question, how do you build the rigor of inter-student learning in online education? And I think what this means is, how do you build in learning from each other? Certainly, I remember when I was in IIT Madras and lived in Godavari Hostel, a lot of the learning came by talking to other students and working together and learning from them. One could argue that we learned more from each other than from going to class. Online, absolutely, that is harder. It's not as good, but here are some ways you do it. One is when you take an online course, we encourage students to find a buddy. Okay, you try to find a buddy and you learn together. And studies have shown that if you find a buddy, the outcomes, your success will be higher if you work with somebody else and you learn together. Another example is, some of our courses have, some of our computer science courses, for example, have hundreds of thousands of students. In fact, one has 1 million students in it. And so what happens is we have a discussion forum, a Q&A forum, where students can ask questions. And other students answer the questions. And this way, students are learning from each other. I'll tell you a funny story. When we launched the first course on edX, it was my colleagues and I from MIT. This was in 1982. It was a course on circuits and electronics. We had a discussion forum, but we did not know the power of the forum. And so I told my colleagues and our teaching assistants, hey, look, we have to be working 7/24, answering all the questions from these students. We expected 200 students in our class, but before we knew it, we had 155,000 students from 162 countries. So we were tearing our hair out. How do we support and answer questions from 155,000 students? So we said 7/24, we're going to be working all the time. So one night, about 2 o'clock at night, I was sitting down in my computer and I saw a question come up. And I think this was a question from a student from India. The question popped up and I began typing my answer. And I don't type very fast. And I was typing my answer. Before I finished, some of the student popped in with an answer, and from a different country. I looked at the answer. The answer was not quite correct, and so I said, interesting. So I said, rather than typing the answer, I deleted my answer and said, okay, let me correct the other student's answer. So I began to type. But before I finished, another student from yet another country had popped in with an answer, and all this was happening real time, mind you. This is real time. As I'm sitting there trying to type the answer, students are answering it. And then before I knew it, boom, 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 the students were answering the questions and discussing it. And a huge discussion ensued. So I was fascinated. I just sat back, folded my hands, and just watched the conversation among students all over the world, talking in real time. And this was 2 a.m. And by the time 4 a.m., 4 o'clock in the morning came around, the students had come up with the answer themselves. So all I had to do was on edX, we can bless a faculty can bless a good answer. And so I clicked good answer, and that's it. And to me, I learned so much in those 2 hours where I said, oh my God, students are collaborating and teaching each other online, and not just students sitting next to each other, but students all over the world are collaborating and doing this. And it was just absolutely eye-opening. And that's the reason why, even in big courses, we can support them online with about the same staff that you might use for a 100-person campus class. It's truly amazing as to how this kind of online collaboration can happen, and how students are learning from each other fully online, and not just answering questions but also learning. What we did then was we formed a new kind of role on edX, where what we would do is once students completed classes, we would invite them to come back to the platform as community TAs. So it's an honor, and they serve as community TAs, and they help, and they go back and help the students. So in fact, Amol Bhave, who came to MIT, who served as a community TA in one of our early courses. And so there's a huge amount of collaboration going on, and it is truly, truly spectacular to see that. So another question is, there are various other platforms like Khan Academy. There's also YouTube. How does edX compare to some of the other online learning platforms? So there were 2 or 3 questions on that. So let me broadly answer that question. First of all, it's funny you mentioned Khan Academy. I'm a huge fan of Khan Academy. Believe it or not, Salman Khan, who's the Khan in the Khan Academy and the founder, was a student of mine at MIT in the 1990s. And, he's been an inspiration to me. And when I started edX, along with a number of colleagues at MIT, and my colleagues and I were teaching the first course on edX, what was interesting was that I didn't really know how to create videos, and Salman Khan's videos at Khan Academy really inspired me. And actually, Salman Khan himself gave me some key tips on how to create good videos. And so Khan Academy has been a total inspiration. Then some of the differences are with a lot of the players, a lot of MOOC providers out there. And one of the big differentiators for edX is just like Khan Academy, edX is also a nonprofit. In the college level MOOC, and Khan Academy is at the high school level, where they have videos on math problem solving and so on. edX is also a nonprofit. But all the other MOOC providers at the college level are all for profits. edX is the only nonprofit. We are also open source. We've given away our platform to the world for free, and anybody can use our platform now for free. Also, we have a huge focus on quality. We have partners like MIT and Harvard and Oxford and IIM Bangalore and IIT Bombay on our platform that are teaching on edX. And so you'll find amazing universities that are some of the top universities in the world that are exclusively on edX. And I think the fact that we're a nonprofit and we are founded by Harvard and MIT, I think is a big part of who we are in terms of quality and the kind of partners that we have. Also, the MicroMasters is uniquely on edX. You won't find MicroMasters anywhere else. And so we've been very innovative. So I think these are just some of the examples of how edX might be similar to Khan Academy in being a nonprofit, but different from a lot of the other players in the industry. So here's an interesting question. The question is there a business opportunity here? So for example, is there an opportunity for someone to set up a classroom in India? And the question says, where you, say in a town in Telangana, offer courses from edX, but you work with the students. Let's say you have 50 students in your classroom, but you work with the students like your tutor, but they're taking edX courses. And edX can give you a slightly discounted rate for the courses. And the answer is yes, we're actually already doing it. And we work with many companies. So for example, and universities. We are working with Pearson in India. And in Delhi, for example, Pearson has classrooms and they offer edX courses. So we have an amazing program in digital marketing from Wharton on edX. It's some amazing courses on digital marketing in terms of how you use the digital media to do marketing from Wharton Business School. And that and other programs, you can go to Pearson and you can go into their classrooms and they have a tutor to help you, and you can pay Pearson directly. And so we are already doing that. And so there's certainly opportunities for you to try to do the programs like this. And the other thing you could do is set up something like that and bring in the students and get them to pay edX directly, but then you charge them a fee for services to help you with the tutoring. And so that might be a way for you to try it out before you invest too much time into it.
I think we are nearing the 1 hour mark. So perhaps the last question.
Okay, so let me, there's many questions. Let me see if I can find a question that is quite a bit different, that I think I answered how edX is differentiated. We are differentiated in terms of quality and universities and non-profit and MicroMasters. One question, why isn't our alma mater IIT Madras on the platform? I don't know. I would be delighted to have our alma mater IIT Madras on the platform, and I would be delighted to welcome them to join our partnership and offer courses on edX alongside IIT Bombay and IIM Bangalore and others. Of course, we would love to have them on our platform. They're also doing very good work. They are a real leader in online learning in India. They've done interesting work in online education themselves, and so we would be delighted to have them on our platform. So with that, I would stop here and thank you all for joining me. And I'm very excited to have been with you and have chatted with you. And I hope I get other opportunities to do so. Thank you.
So thank you, Professor Agarwal, for this wonderful talk today. The scary bit that you told us by 2030, 1 and 2 jobs will disappear. So I think many of us would be signing up for courses on edX later tonight. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. I look forward to chatting again. Bye-bye.